What's up YouTube? I'm an average dad. In this video, I'm going to show you how I took a floating shelf with LED lights that I made previously and added a motion sensor. Let's get to it. So, as I said, in the last two videos, my wife and I built a dry bar in our basement, including a base cabinet, refrigerator, and quartz countertop. Above that, I built a custom floating shelf with LED lights, down lights for the countertop, and up lights for displaying bottles on top. Now, I'd never built something like this, and it turned out pretty cool. Naturally, I wanted to show it off to friends and family. But what's not as cool is to say, oh wait, you need something from the basement? Let me run downstairs and hit the button and turn on the lights, and then I'll come back up, and then you can go down and get a drink, and then you can come back up and tell me if you think the lights are cool, and then I can go back down later and turn the lights off. So, what's a slightly vain dad to do? Slap a motion sensor on there. That way, if we're watching a movie in the basement and someone gets up to get a drink, bam, lights come on. If we're on the main floor and someone goes downstairs to get something out of the refrigerator, bam, lights come on. If someone breaks into our basement to steal our stuff, bam, lights come on. Then he'll take our TV. All right, I'll stop wasting your time. Let's jump into the build. So fortunately, when I originally built the dry bar, I ran power down here to the bottom of the cabinet where the outlet is, but I also ran 3 wires for the motion sensor. So we'll use those to hook it up to the Arduino and then mount the motion sensor down here so it's hidden but activates when you walk up to the dry bar. First, I'll unplug the floating shelf, and then I'll remove the tape that I had protecting those wires and then strip them so I can connect them to the motion sensor. The motion sensor I'll be using for this is the HC-SR501. It's a pretty affordable and common PIR sensor to use with Arduinos, and it's also the same one I used for the automatic litter box I built. So the wires I ran down from the shelf aren't long enough to make it all the way to the motion sensor, so I'm going to use these female to male jumper wires to make that connection. I'll need to cut off the male end connectors though, so I can connect it to those wires coming down from the shelf. I didn't want to mess with soldering inside the bottom of the cabinet, so opted to make the connection by just twisting them really tight and covering them with electrical tape. Obviously the connection would be better if I soldered these or had wire nuts that fit these wire sizes, but this will be good enough for this use. Now that the motion sensor is wired to the Arduino, it's time to hook up my laptop to the Arduino via the USB port I made on the side of the shelf and write some code. Alright, jokes aside, this portion was pretty challenging and took longer than I thought. I had to change the original code so that when both lights were off, it would look for motion, and if it sensed it, play a little animation. But if the lights had been turned on via the buttons, it would just ignore any motion. Now, if this all looks super impressive to you, like I'm writing code to send someone to the moon, it's actually pretty average, if you will. A motivated high schooler could probably figure it out. If you're interested in doing a similar thing on one of your projects, I'll link a super helpful YouTube tutorial I used quite a bit throughout this project in the description. So in writing Arduino code, there's 2 main phases. One is getting the code to run. So here you can see a couple examples of me having errors and then having to go back and fix either variables that I misnamed or parts that were supposed to be commented out and ignored. The second is once the code runs, is getting the code to do what you want it to do. This took quite a bit of troubleshooting and going through and making sure the lights were turning on as intended, being triggered by the buttons or motion sensor. Here you can see I have the motion sensor just on the counter and was able to get one pattern to play and then gradually fade into a different pattern. After I got that portion working, it was time to figure out how to incorporate the buttons back in. Here's an example where the button was supposed to turn off the animation on both, but only did on the top. And then when doing a long press, it was supposed to go back off, but instead return to the animation. So almost there, but a little bit more work needed. Once I got that figured out, it was time to start testing the motion sensor to see if the planned mounting location was going to trigger when I wanted it to. Or when the cat walked by. After some adjustments, I was confident in the mounting location that it would light up when you walked up to the dry bar, but not when you were further away. Now that I'm ready to mount the motion sensor, I 3D printed an enclosure for it, which I found on Thingiverse, which is an online database of 3D designs you can download for free. The issue I found though is that the jumper cables stick out so far away from the PCB that I can't mount it flush to a wall. So instead of using those, I'm going to cut off the connectors and just solder those wires directly to the header pins on the motion sensor PCB. After covering that with some electrical tape, test fit it against the wall, and looks like it's going to work out pretty well. So we'll cut a hole in the cabinet and then fish the wires through from the bottom, plug those in, and then attach the motion sensor enclosure to the wall with a drywall screw. And just like that, we're done. After 1 year of making the shelf, I finally have my walk-up animation. And the beauty of it is now it's relatively easy to change and customize. Christmas time, for example. Or when our favorite NFL team is playing. Alright guys, that's all I got. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Oh yeah, and I did manage to impress a couple of our friends.
Oh, it is motion detected.
What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? I'm an average added a motion sensor.